The Gospel of Mary.
Yeah. This got popularized by Dan Brown in the Da Vinci Code. There's not much to say about it. Virtually every scholar will tell you it's dated between 150 and 200 A.D. It's apparently an effort by some women to try to get around some restrictions that have been put down by the church, trying to preclude some oddball and eccentric people, some of who maybe have been women at the time, who were wanting to preach in the church. And so they created this gospel in which Mary has a revelation from God, and Peter and Andrew say, that's not what Jesus said. And so Mary starts crying. It's Mary Magdalene. She starts crying. And so Levi says to Peter and Andrew, hey, let her go preach this and do so without boundaries and restrictions. And it's just a way to try to get around the church rules about whacked out people preaching and teaching in local churches. Nobody believes this has any relationship to the historical Jesus.
But as wacky as that is, it doesn't even come close to the next one, which is the secret gospel of Mark.
Oh, man. This is when I say this is unbelievable, John, this is truly unbelievable. Morton Smith was a well-respected, very liberal a scholar at Columbia University. He says he discovers in a place in Jerusalem, or in the Middle East, he discovers a document in a book from the 17th century where somebody had copied a letter written by Clement of Alexandria. Now, Clement was a disciple of Peter. He was one of the early church fathers. He was a pretty hip guy in terms of what was going on. And in this letter that the monk copied in the 1600s was a couple of paragraphs from a secret gospel, the secret gospel of Mark, the one that only the initiated can see, the one that not just everybody gets to read. That's the regular gospel of Mark. This is the secret gospel of Mark. Well, what does it say? It says that Jesus healed a young man, and then the young man, naked except for a towel around him, comes and he spends the night with Jesus. Well, I mean, the implications of this are clear. And, what wasn't really known at the time is that Morton Smith himself was gay and had actually written other books that said Jesus had these secret initiation rites and so forth, and raised these homoerotic suggestions. Well, what has turned out to be, and by the way, Morton Smith writes a 548-page book for Harvard University Press talking about his great new discovery, and a popular book about it that Elaine Pagels, the well-known religion professor from Princeton, writes the foreword to. Well, as it turns out, of course, the writings that he based all this on are gone. Nobody can find them. When he dies, they find photographs of these that he has. Oh, great. Let's look at them. Let's examine them. They had forensic experts examine them. What did they find? They're forgeries. They're a hoax. He actually, and they knew this by the way that they analyzed the writing, the way that he made certain Greek letters in a unique way that only he did. There's all kinds of evidence to indicate he made this thing up. And the scary part about it is that you have very liberal scholars who see something like this and they jump at it uncritically and say, wow, here's something new. Wow, Jesus may have been gay. That's really provocative. That's really interesting. Let's write about this. Let's talk about this. And they ignore the eyewitness-based first century documents of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the rest of the New Testament of the Bible. They ignore that. And they start extolling the virtues of this particular thing, which turns out they get egg on their face because it is absolutely a hoax. What an embarrassment to the scholarly community, those who were willing to, suspend their critical judgment about this book, but see so critical when they look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John for no good historical reason. I think it's just a black mark on these scholars.
The most angry I've ever seen Craig Evans was when I asked him about Michael Bajan's book, The Jesus Papers.
Yeah.
Talk about, you interviewed him as well.
I
Talk
did.
about what he said about the Jesus Papers.
I mean, this is, again, Michael Bajan writes this whacked out thing where he says that in the remodeling of a foundation of a house in Jerusalem, they found some papyrus fragments, 2 of them. And these are in Aramaic. And they supposedly were written by Jesus while he was awaiting trial. And it says, oh, by the way, a little bit of a misunderstanding here. I'm not really saying I'm the Son of God. We all kind of have the Spirit of God. You have the Spirit of God. I can have the Spirit of God. So, okay. So Michael Bajan says, I went, and these have been verified by 2 Israeli archaeologists. I went, I saw them for myself, and it's true. Well, wait a minute. Number one, no papyrus is going to exist for 2,000 years in the foundation of a house in Jerusalem. Given the weather, it would certainly disintegrate. Number two, Oh, he can't say who owns these things. Oh, he didn't photograph them. Oh, he doesn't read Aramaic, and neither does the person who supposedly owns them. So how do they know what it says? Oh, by the way, the two archaeologists who confirmed it, they both happen to be dead. When I was legal editor of the Chicago Tribune, if I came in to my editor and said, hey, I got a hot story, and I tried to sell him that, I would have been fired. That would be grounds for dismissal. Are you that gullible? Are you that stupid? You're trying to sell us a bill of goods? I would have been out in the street in 2 minutes. This is just historical fantasy land. And Bajan, who has no historical background, writing these books, and frankly, a lot of people buying them and believing them. His book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and other stuff. I'm telling you, this is just rewriting history to fit preconceived notions of what people wish it had been like.
All right, conclusion on all of these new books and new attacks trying to uncover a new radical Jesus. What did you conclude?
I can tell you in one sentence. There are no new documents that have been discovered that have any historical legitimacy in terms of the real Jesus, that have changed one iota our essential beliefs about who he is and what he did.